1,000 decibels. You leave a dream to wake in another. Colour of Cal's book, A Memory.
Hi and welcome to Gallery Watch. I'm Naomi Drysdale and we've travelled to Fremantle tonight at the Moores Contemporary Gallery for an exhibition of 3 talented artists, and it's titled Passing Through Time. We have Laura Mitchell, Anita Gaden and Barbara Douglas. Now this is one of our artists from tonight, Laura Mitchell. How are you tonight?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Very well. You've been doing a lot tonight.
Yes, that's it. Yeah, playing music as well.
Now, what can you tell us about some of these paintings that you've exhibited here tonight?
Okay, this series in particular here is about the merge about my migration from the States. So the backgrounds of the paintings are made with Australian maps. And then the foregrounds are actually scenes of my homeland in Virginia, which I miss a lot, and it's quite difficult, expensive to get back there. Now, they also are about the 12 hours of the day. So each painting has text embedded in it and the number of the day. And then they're also based on the poetry of the poet who helped me with the music earlier. We did a lot of scenes of very distinct seasons, just to show the passage of time, because the whole focus of this exhibition is time, through very distinct seasons that we have in Virginia, where I'm from. This one in particular is about the death of a loved one, and so it's also about, for me, there's some things that are missing from my life because of my migration from my homeland to here. And of course I've gained other things, but it's about the figure walking into the distance. It's about, the losing of some things and then the space that creates for other things to come into your life, and that rotation of the earth and going back and forth between 2 continents. This painting is called The Winter's Winsome Chill, and in this poem that the painting is based on, there are 2 lovers who are, I suppose, working at the mill, somewhere around the mill. And where I'm from, there's a lot of water, a lot of rainfall, a lot of rivers that flow into the sea. So all of the towns, including my hometown, have mills. This one in particular is the steel mill in my hometown. And yes, and obviously the red color and the dark is, about the content of the poem, which is about the lovers. The poem is written by William Yeoman. So I asked William, because he is a writer, I thought he would know some poets who maybe had done some work about time, because of the topic of the exhibition. And he said, I do. And I looked at a few people's works, and then he said, well, I actually have done something called the Orologos, the 12 poems based on 12 hours of the day. And I knew that William also was quite a great orator, because he did the poetry reading at my last exhibition. I thought, well, what a great opportunity to collaborate with somebody, not only a writer, but actually fairly theatrical, and has a great stage presence in his own right. So bridging the art and the music and the performance, and also the poetry being music. There's his poems have a certain meter, certain rhythm to them, and so I guess I'm looking for that rhythm in these paintings. And that's why they are all the same size, but then the rhythmic variation occurs within that size. On the other aspect of Yeoman's poems, which is the mythological aspect, and you find many rich references to Chinese and classical Greek mythology in this set of poems. So what I decided to do was come up with my own sort of mythology. So it's roughly based on the Chinese zodiac, but there's a few surprises in there. And again, the merging of the Australian maps and then the imagery being created by myself, being American and Australian.
Very exciting. So we can see a lot of thought has gone into each of these pieces and the theme in each of them.
This one is a collaboration with my husband, actually, who went to art school himself. And yeah, I've been encouraging him to do some kind of collaboration for a long time. And he's been, meanwhile, doing landscape design, which is creative in its own right.
Well, actually, surprisingly, it was pretty easy because she made the ceramic pieces that you see, and she just gave us free rein to do the sand. So we made the sand mandala, and she didn't interfere, so it was great. Perfect working relationship, really.
I said, David, what do you reckon? Can we collaborate? And he said, why don't we build a mound of sand, okay? You're doing this work based on the orologos, the clocks, the references to sundials, you know, to the calendars. Let's do a round earthwork in the middle of the room with sand, like the Tibetan sand mandalas.
Not too sure what it is, but I was thinking it's actually got to do with the star signs and the sun and the months and stuff like that. So yeah.
Have you seen anything like this before?
No, it's fantastic. Yeah, it's really, really good.
Amazing. It just looks so, it's perfect, isn't it? And I'm obviously looking at number one being a Capricorn, but yeah.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, it's neat. Really neat.
This very spiritual process and include the aspect of numbers, and I had this idea to create these mythological, continue with the mythological references.
She talks about her art very well, and she's travelled extensively over the globe, and you know, she's obviously settled here for her family and stuff and her children. And here she is in Fremantle, and I was so excited when she said I'll have an opening, and I was just like, well, we're coming. So I've dragged, you know, but I didn't actually drag them. They came free will, naturally, to come and see her work, because I was really excited about it. So yeah, she's just an amazing woman. This is resembling the sun and the star. This could be the moon or Earth, I would say. I reckon probably more like Earth. This is Earth. Yeah.
Little kangaroo there. And
Yeah.
These are all done in ceramic, and of course the mandala itself is, or whatever you want to call it, the calendar sundial, is all made with sand and coloured sand. In the middle there's the Mayan sun god, and the other side the moon.
She's the driving force. I'm just the doer. You know, I'm the mere mortal in the mix. But you know, I have a few skills, and you know, she has a lot of drive and a lot of creative sort of drive. So it's a good combination, really. Yeah.
Now this is Barbara Douglas, another one of our exhibiting artists tonight. How are you tonight, Barbara?
Good, thank you. Very excited. It's been a really nice night. This is where I started my collection of work, which is Pickering Brook. It's a location on Canning Road in Western Australia. And I was attracted by the beauty of the location to begin with, and the nature, the natural element, because at the back of where you paint, when I started to produce this body of work, this being the first piece of the collection, there was a forest, a bush, a landscape, and in the sense for me to just spend the afternoon with this beautiful view of the apple orchard and developing my skill as an artist was a perfect place. At the space in Pickering Brook, it was a good place to document time. I mean, we discussed that's the basis of what our exhibition would be about, and for myself, I was able to connect with my own self, understanding that I like a more organic sense of time, looking at the seasons, and I like to layer my work. So over the year, I've painted this piece, and it has changed as the seasons have changed. and now it's finished where it is. So it's almost like a memory collage of memory within the painting, even though it's an oil painting. This is quite interesting because it is very different to the piece that we just looked at in the layering of this. I started off drawing on canvas and with graphite, and then I used a acrylic, watered it down, and brought it back into my studio and wanted to work back into the plum tree. This was painted out on location. So first of all, I did a smaller piece, which was a plein air painting. That was oil. But then on the larger canvas, when I documented this piece, brought it back in the studio, it started to become more surreal, and depth came into the painting in a different way to perspective. And I also experimented with this piece. I wanted to create multiple layers. So I have in the past created dyes from boiling eucalyptus leaves, and that becomes the primer that I use to prime my canvas. I've actually had it for about 7 years. Some of the dyes, the negative space when I pour it onto the canvas that's left, it then allows me to look into the painting like the surrealists or Dadaists would have done, and I suppose a sense of law of chance, looking and seeing what I can do with the negative spaces, or what is the positive spaces saying to me. So I sort of let the painting speak to me, and then I will react to that. So in this piece, it's almost got a background separate to the foreground, which takes you into a more imaginative space. Even though there's lots of layers like the other piece, you know, it's a more smoother finish.
And what can you tell us about this piece above us? It's quite different to the ones we've just looked at.
Well, it's actually really interesting because when I first started this piece, I had used a painting that I painted on location up at Eagle Bay when I was travelling on the west coast of Australia. And when I was at this location, I was doing a plein air painting, and it was quite stormy, and it was getting close to evening. And I loved the mood of the ocean and the greyness in the sky. So documenting that on canvas after, I felt that was a really special painting, which I've got still. But then it inspired me to use technology and have that processed onto a larger, this scale canvas as a photograph. So I had that done. So I was left with the canvas of my painting printed onto canvas, and then I painted into it. And I actually explored this for about 2 years. And the painting changed. It really developed its own sense of life, because at one stage it was an oceanscape, and then it developed rocks, and it was sort of almost like a little bay, and then it progressed into a sky, which ultimately now it's developed even more into a sky. It's called sky flying high, meaning, you know, you're sort of, yeah, onto a new journey of seeing more things.
Really nice to hear about the layers and the process and all of the things involved with your paintings here. Thank you so much for sharing with us, Barbara.
Thank you very much.
And stay with us because we'll be back with more after the break here on Gallery Watch at the Moore Gallery.